It was an ordinary afternoon when I was returning to my parking spot, where I parked my truck every day in the apartment complex. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm, golden light across the parking lot. A cool breeze hit my face as I walked through the entrance gate, and the sound of the wind rustling through the trees calmed my nerves. It had been a long day, filled with stress and a never-ending list of tasks. All I wanted now was to relax and unwind in the comfort of my home. As I turned the corner, I spotted her, Karen, the notorious HOA, Homeowner Association, officer known for her overbearing attitude and obsessive need to enforce every rule to the letter. It wasn't unusual to see her hanging around the parking lot, always watching, waiting for someone to slip up so she could write a ticket or file a complaint. But today, something felt different. Karen was standing right in front of my truck, arms crossed, a look of disdain on her face. At first, I thought she was simply scowling at something else, but as I got closer, I realized she was staring directly at me. My stomach sank a little as I braced for the inevitable confrontation. I wasn't the type to back down from confrontation, but at the same time, I wasn't in the mood for dealing with her nonsense. So, I approached her casually, hoping that maybe today would be the day she would mind her business and let me park my truck in peace. I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I didn't see why this should escalate. "Excuse me, do you need something?" I asked, trying to sound polite but also firm. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she glanced down at my truck, then up at me, and finally spoke, her voice dripping with annoyance. "You know, this is a private parking spot for residents only," Karen said, her tone condescending as if I didn't already know the rules of the complex. "Your truck has been parked here too long, and it's blocking the other cars. I'm calling a tow truck to get rid of it." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. I knew this wasn't worth getting upset over, but I couldn't help feeling a sense of frustration building inside me. "Karen, I've parked here before and never had an issue. There's no one around, and no one is being blocked. Are you really going to call a tow truck over something like this?" Her eyes narrowed, and I could tell she was getting more agitated. "I don't care if it's just for a few minutes, you're violating the rules. You need to move your truck immediately or I'll have it towed." Her voice was now a little more forceful, as though she had the upper hand. I wasn't going to let this go that easily. "Look, Karen, I get it. You love your job, but this is a bit much, don't you think? You've been here long enough to know the parking situation. I'm not doing anything wrong." That's when the situation took a sudden turn. Karen pulled out her phone and dialed a number, giving them an earful about my violation. I could see the wheels turning in her head as she prepared to escalate things further. She was convinced she was in the right, but what she didn't know was that I had some backup in the form of a large SWAT logo on the side of my truck. I didn't typically use it to flaunt my job, but today, it felt like the perfect opportunity to put her in her place. I had recently been assigned to a new unit, and my truck, which was a specialized vehicle for the team, bore the logo. It was big, bold, and could easily be seen from a distance. I'm not one to boast, but the SWAT insignia carried weight, it commanded respect, or at least, I hoped it would in this case. Just as Karen was about to finish her call, I calmly stepped to the side of my truck and opened the door, allowing the reflection of the SWAT logo to catch her eye. I didn't say a word, but I could tell by her sudden shift in body language that she noticed the emblem. Her entire demeanor froze, her jaw dropped for a moment as she took in the sight. It was clear that she realized who she was dealing with. She slowly put her phone down, the tone of her voice shifting from confrontational to uncertain. "Wait a second, you're one of them," she stammered, clearly thrown off by the revelation. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I waited, watching her try to process the situation. Her previous confidence was now replaced with hesitation as she stared at the emblem. She was still the same entitled woman who had been ready to cause trouble, but now, I could see the wheels turning in her head, realizing that she might have pushed too far. The tables had turned, and I wasn't about to let her get away with making my life difficult. As the silence lingered between us, Karen stood frozen, staring at the SWAT logo on my truck. Her hand was still hovering near her phone, but it was clear she no longer had any idea what to do next. The shift in her demeanor was unmistakable. Where moments ago she had been brimming with authority, ready to dictate the rules, now she looked small and uncertain, like a child who had been caught misbehaving. I could see the realization dawning on her. It wasn't just the fact that I had a job in law enforcement. It was the implication that I wasn't someone she could easily push around. I wasn't just a random resident, no, I had the power to make her life difficult if I chose to, and she knew it. For a moment, Karen said nothing. Her gaze shifted from the SWAT logo to me and then back again, as if she were trying to process everything that had just unfolded. The authority she thought she wielded had evaporated, replaced with uncertainty. This wasn't the outcome she had expected. She had assumed that her position within the HOA gave her the power to call the shots, to make decisions about others' lives based on the smallest infractions. But now, that assumption was being challenged, and it was obvious she didn't know how to handle it. I decided not to escalate things further. I could have made a scene, reminded her of the power dynamic, but I didn't want to go down that path. I wasn't looking for a fight, I just wanted to park my truck without being hassled. So, I stood there, waiting for her to make the next move. Finally, she broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize, Karen stammered, looking more flustered than I had ever seen her. I didn't know you were one of them? I finished her sentence, keeping my tone neutral, almost casual. She nodded sheepishly, her gaze falling to the ground. Yeah, I guess I jumped to conclusions, she admitted, still visibly flustered. I'm sorry. I gave a small nod, appreciating the apology but not fully accepting it yet. It's fine. But you need to understand that I'm not someone to be treated like that. You can't just throw your weight around without knowing who you're dealing with. People deserve respect, Karen, even if they don't fit the mold you're used to. Her eyes widened slightly at my words, as if they had struck a chord. I wasn't sure whether she fully understood the gravity of what had just happened, but it was clear that she wasn't going to push things further. She took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and then spoke again. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'm used to dealing with residents who just let things slide, she said, her voice softening. But I shouldn't have assumed you would do the same. I nodded once more, this time more sincerely. Exactly. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, Karen. Just because you have a position in the HOA doesn't mean you can steamroll over people whenever you feel like it. She seemed to understand that. Her shoulders slumped, the tension leaving her body. She wasn't going to make any more excuses. It was as if the realization hit her that her position of power wasn't an excuse for her behavior. It didn't give her the right to dictate or intimidate. I'm really sorry, Karen said again, her voice more genuine this time. I'll let you go. No tow truck, no more issues. Good, I replied, offering a slight smile. Let's just keep it that way. With that, Karen turned and began to walk away, but not before giving me one last look. It wasn't a look of disdain or anger, but rather one of acknowledgement. She had learned something today, and I could tell by the subtle change in her demeanor that she was going to be more cautious next time. Whether or not she would fully change her approach remained to be seen, but for now, I was content. As I climbed into my truck and started the engine, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Not because I had won in some grand showdown, but because I had stood my ground. I had reminded Karen that power doesn't come from a position, it comes from the way you treat others. And sometimes, it takes a little reminder for people to realize that they can't just push others around. The next time I saw Karen in the parking lot, there was a slight shift in her behavior. She didn't scowl at me or act superior. Instead, she gave me a quick nod, almost as if acknowledging the unspoken truce between us. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a quiet form of respect, and it was clear that things had changed between us. For me, the lesson was simple: sometimes the best way to handle situations is with calmness and clarity, rather than aggression or arrogance. And for Karen, it was a lesson in humility, a reminder that no matter how small the infraction, we all deserve to be treated with decency. And as for the HOA, they never bothered me about parking again. Perhaps they realized that some battles aren't worth fighting, and that maybe, just maybe, they should reserve their energies for issues that actually matter. And maybe Karen learned that respect and humility go a lot further than enforcing petty rules.